All right, so this is the panel clamp rack. So zoom out here real quick, Marshall, so you can see. This is the panel clamp rack. This is where we do most of our glue ups, 99% of them these days. We've got 5 different levels of clamps so that you can clamp up things on top of each other if you need the room to do so. But this is 12 feet long, so you can clamp up a lot of things. The way you glue up a tabletop or any panel that you need, first you're going to take your S4S boards, the ones that have been jointed and are ready to glue up. You're going to set them on the rack first to get an idea of the pattern that you want. Now this is really most important when you talk about stuff like knotty alder or anything that we're doing that's rustic. Rustic walnut, rustic white oak, anything that is a little bit less clean. Beech is typically very clean, but you want to lay the boards down to make sure that you're getting the best pattern with the least amount of knots and checks. Once you've got that pattern sorted out, then you're going to remove the boards off the clamp rack and start gluing. Sam, why don't you help me? I forget we have 2 Sams in this shop. So lay the boards out just like this. So you're going to lift them up. Why don't you come over here so you can get a better perspective, Marshall? Yeah, there we go. So you lift the boards up just like that. And so the joint that's going to get the glue is facing up. So just like that. And then you're just going to start putting glue on the edges. A lot of guys will intentionally spread with their finger. There's nothing wrong with that. You can absolutely do that. In my opinion, it is an unneeded step if you do things the way that we do them, simply because this is really fast and efficient. Okay, once you've got glue on all the joints, I like to do a little square pattern so that you've got some on the top and the bottom, and you're just going to really quickly, one at a time, boom. And then if you can, press the boards down into each other to get a little squeeze out. That's really helpful too, because we don't want all the glue to fall off the bottom. Okay? Okay. Now we're going to do what's called cauling the boards, not C-A-L-L, C-A-U-L. And we need some clamps for that and some metal cauls, some 1.5 inch square tubing that we use. This takes a little bit of time, so I'm just going to pause the video here. We'll finish it, and then I'll show you the final product and why we do it that way. All right, so this is what a caul looks like. Okay, so I have 2 steel bars. Actually, I'll pull one out here. These are our cauls. Okay, these are steel bars, 1 by 1. They're about 4 feet long. And what they do when we put them and clamp them together like this is they're putting vertical pressure on both the top and bottom of the board or of the panel to make sure that we don't have to take off a ton of material to get a flat surface. This cauling the panels really saves us a lot of time on sanding and surfacing and preparing to make sure that we get a proper commercially flat finish. Occasionally on a small panel like this, a couple of cauls we usually do just fine if the boards are straight, but you really want to pay attention to the edges. I put one here as an example of what we usually do on a long panel to make sure that the ends are all proper. So you'll take a clamp and you'll glue and you'll clamp right in between that joint, or right on that joint, to make sure that those 2 boards are level. I just wanted to pause the video here to note that 99% of the time we are putting cauls on the edge, or sorry, clamps on the edge, just as you can see in the picture right here, on every joint. We just didn't need to do it on this particular table because we knew that this one was going to be planed down to 6/4 thick, where it's 8/4 now. We're going to be surfacing quite a bit off of this thing, so it didn't need to be perfect. But also with beech, it's generally very straight, and these boards, as you can see, were very, very straight as they were, so we didn't need to worry too much about these edge clamps. But we do this the vast majority of the time, so please don't skip this step just because it wasn't in the video. We don't need it on this panel. I just wanted to put it there for an example. But this is what a caul looks like, and this is what it does. Once you've got them cauled up, then you can start putting some vertical pressure, or some side pressure. I don't know. Anyway, some pressure this way, so that it'll actually glue up. Now it's important to note, okay, so you don't want to clamp them all up super hard right up front. You're going to clamp them with one hand to start, just to make sure that they've all got the same pressure. Then you're going to go back to where you started, and you're going to give it one turn, I guess a half turn technically, half turn, and then you're done. Wood paneling does not take a ton of pressure. If you've got a clean joint, then you don't need a lot of pressure. The only time anyone needs to really wrench a clamp down is because their joinery wasn't good enough, and they're trying to compensate for the gap on the joinery by making sure that they put enough pressure to get the glue squeezing those boards together. That's not what we do, especially with the straight line rip saw. We very, very rarely have poor joints. So that is the process of gluing up a panel. Once this is dry, which according to Titebond, which is the glue that we use, it only needs about 30 minutes. 30 minutes reaches about 80% cure on this board. However, I've noticed that if we take it off before and start working it, anytime before an hour, hour and a half, then we wind up with what's called glue telegraphing, where when the wood gets warm and expands, the glue, because it isn't fully cured, will come up out of that joint, and it'll form this little ridge that you can feel. So we want to leave it to cure for a minimum of 1 hour overnight if possible before you start doing any sort of work on these tables.